Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. We have a new monthly report to go through, covering all of the work that went on in January. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you all so much for the support, it is truly appreciated. So having only just released the monthly report covering November and December's work, we are straight into a new information overload video, this time highlighting much of the work CIG has done in the month of January, so kicking off this year. And before we begin, today is the last day that you will be able to pick up the TOBII Eye Tracker 5 at 15% off during this sale before it goes back to full price. And using the link will get you that deal while also providing my channel with a direct kickback, but rest assured there will be many more sales throughout the year, of which I will be sure to let you all know about. Now, as usual, kicking off with the AI content team, they began the year prototyping an upcoming NPC that will utilize an amalgamation of several behavior types. Now, I'm not sure what this NPC will be specifically, but I'm hoping it is relating to much of the work done on missions and could be a generic mission giver. That is my hope, having NPCs at various locations just giving out basic fetch request missions, for example, would be really cool, but until they tell us, that is just a guess. The team also worked on a proprietary tool that will allow the designers to generate a script of the engine dialogue flow to ensure the lines work as intended, which says will allow for much more efficiency in the writing and capturing of future characters. The team also began updating Stanton's landing zones with bespoke ATCs or air traffic controllers that will better represent the city. And while there is still some technical validation required, these characters will start appearing soon. Now, for those of you who remember when we had Levski in the game, the air traffic controller there had quite a lot of character and quite a unique style to them. They were annoying as hell, but this kind of stuff should help to further differentiate between each landing zone and give you a sense of what to expect before landing there. So Microtech, for example, might be quite professional, Lorville probably a little bullish, whereas Grimhex slightly darker in nature perhaps. Finally, for the AI content team, the designers continued their ongoing review of Stanton, focused on Grimhex, refactoring its population to make sure it's using the correct behaviors and acting appropriately. So what Cloud Imperium's AI teams are pretty focused on right now is helping to establish much more of a unique character at each landing zone, selling the sort of social aspects of the environment as a realistic representation of what you would expect to feel there, and who you might be bumping into, which I feel, when done, will really help to stand each location out so much more from one another, giving different vibes as you travel around the verse. Now next we have the AI features team, whose primary focus in January was split between bug fixing and creature behavior improvements. For example, code for throwing grenades was updated to unify some of the code paths, giving much more consistent functionality between cover and open space launches. So really happy to hear this. Hopefully grenades behave much more reliably now, and it's not so much of a, okay, this could kill us all kind of decision, but we will have to test them to find out. Also, nice to hear that they are working on improving the creature behaviors. Now, for human combat behavior, friendly fire checks were updated to not consider the large bounding boxes of vehicles as friendly, which could block firing. And for creatures, it says the team focused on improving the Valakkar's behavior, with the team saying, "We are working hard to make sure this creature arrives in your hands in the best possible way." And oh boy, this is going to be some very interesting gameplay when the Sandworm gets here. Monster hunting on Monarchs will be so much fun as a group, having someone coax it out and then others putting it down, I suppose, without completely destroying it or spending a fortune on Moabs. Cannot wait. Now also for AI features, they are currently expanding the group system to be more dynamic and better support dynamically spawned entities. And the first use case for this is the quasi-grazers, or space cows, with them having a better understanding of the group that they belong to, improving the look and behavior of the herd. And it will be really interesting as more of this stuff comes online, getting to the point where fauna behaves as they should, with full day-night cycles, being a part of that food chain and ecosystem. I will certainly just watch them as they go about their business. Finally, for the AI features team, they continue to sync their work between projects, so anything from Squadron is made available in the persistent universe as quickly as possible. Now, for the AI game intelligence development team, they continued their work on StarScript, which we've been hearing quite a bit about, with the goal this month being the implementation of views features that was requested by developers to assist them. And after this, the team began to implement StarScript's new master graph design, which will be presented in a sectioned format rather than a global display as in Apollo, meaning it will be viewed from the perception of the selected state. Finally, for the team, visual improvements were made to the automatic parenting groups for parallel and selector nodes, making the graph appear less crowded, and QA are currently testing the tool to identify any issues following procedures. Now, personally, I have no idea what any of this means, but for those of you who do, there you go, there's the information. Ultimately, though, these kind of bespoke tools that are created for the various development teams are done so to help streamline and speed up the process that they are used for, which in turn speeds up development, but also makes it more robust. So the more there are, the better it is overall. Now, next up, we have the AI tech team. They began the year fixing bugs, as did everyone else it seems, plus improving features and kicking off new tech, which included work on a new 3D pathfinding implementation that gives better results in tight spaces or areas with concave shapes. And this, it says, will be utilized by ship AI when traversing complex asteroids or space stations, and can also be used by NPCs when EVAing inside ships. Now, this should enable NPC pilots to basically navigate much better through tighter locations, as well as finding NPCs EVAing inside ships, which will be very cool, especially when we get engineering, being able to turn off gravity when they're able to board, or you find a derelict with NPCs on board. This should also lend well to all areas of the game, especially things like bounty hunting. Being able to chase an NPC bounty as they try to lose you through dangerous routes, or get out of their ship and EVA, or run around, all part of the bigger picture. Now, the team also finalized December's work on the chase and melee attack movement requests, which says delivers a boost in both performance and visual fidelity compared to the previous implementation. The conversation system received updates to how avoidance bubbles are computed so that NPCs don't disturb an ongoing conversation. They are really going to town with this conversation tech, which is cool, especially as it evolves more and comes together as a whole. Having NPCs converse realistically in the background will not just help to sell the believability of a location, but moreover potentially provide interesting tidbits of information that players could take advantage of, giving hints to locations or missions to take part in, without it breaking immersion with NPCs acting all weird and just awkwardly walking through the middle of everybody. Now, for 4.0.1, fixes were made to the navigation and Boyd system, plus planning was done for the work still required to fully synchronize AI components with the server meshing authority transition and other features and systems planned for development this year. So, not a lot then. Now, for the animation team, they began the year working on the Copian Hound and the various sizes of the Valakkar, and I completely forgot about that the Valakkar will come in different sizes. 3, I think, was what we heard, with the juvenile being its sort of child, the adult being the bigger version of it, and then the kind of flipping oversized monster beast apex predator version of it as well. Not to mention, eventually there will be different variants based on evolution and the environment that they live in. But for now, I think just the simple sandworm Valakkar will do. Also, the team created facial animations for various PU characters and events, and worked alongside the AI designers on more robust social AI behaviors. And finally, for the team, the Spec Ops set and 2 others are currently underway to add more challenge to combat. Now, when they refer to Spec Ops set, this means highly skillful and tactical combat FPS AI that will be much more difficult to fight against in comparison to any FPS type that we have had before, which I am very glad, because the AI, even at this time, even with full 30 FPS servers, they're still pretty easy for me to take on my own, so it'll be much nicer to have a more challenging time of things. But also nice to hear that there are 2 others as well as the Spec Ops type, as diversity in this area in combat FPS and PvE interactions will be far more interesting and engaging, and should mean that depending on who you are coming up against and fighting, certain tactics could work great against one enemy, but maybe not be as effective against another, so keeping you on your toes. Now, for the character art team, they continue to work on StarWear art det. They also modified the Duster armor, progressed with stealth armor, designed a new backpack, and developed additional creature variants for a future patch release. So there's quite a lot to break down in that paragraph. Firstly, they mentioned they are working on the StarWear art det, and I hope that soon we get to see StarWear roll out, which will include things like actual pros and cons for every type of clothing or armor item, offering meaningful trade-offs between them, and giving more of an incentive to wear something versus something else, depending on what you are doing, like mining, combat, exploring, and so on. But also being able to layer clothing and armor together, and realistic cloth physics, which will look insanely cool when weather begins to properly roll out, and I can just imagine working as a group together somewhere as a storm rolls in, and then seeing everyone's clothing behaving differently as the wind blows it around. Can't wait for that. Also, not sure what this modification to the Duster outfit is, but stealth armor will be great to see, especially when the update to FPS radars, scanners, and the signature system comes along. Likely one of the biggest impacts to having meaningful stealth mechanics in game. And then finally, additional creature variants could be for fauna that we already have and know about, or something completely new. But finally, for the team, the concept art team explored ideas for various new items and are currently looking into paint schemes for existing armors. Now, next up, we have the core gameplay teams. Throughout January, they investigated and improved many issues found during the 4.0 preview build, with the team currently expanding their debugging tools and logging to better understand future problems and ensure the correct solutions are applied. They also began planning the rest of the year, laying groundwork for upcoming patches and planned features and content, and alongside all of this, technical documentation was created for fundamental improvements or rewrites to some of the core systems, including the transit and hangar flows, which involved cross-team collaboration to ensure that improvements are not solely on the game side, but also support content setup and the latest engine features. And as we heard during the 3-hour live stream, some issues can just be fixed, whereas others, like systems for example, will need full rewrites or refactors to work properly with server meshing. For the economy team, they kicked off the year gathering feedback and data regarding the changes they implemented in Alpha 4.0, plus they tweaked commodity prices and fixed several issues identified in Pyro. Now, I suspect when it comes to the economy and this team, we will see a lot of smaller but very consistent tweaks to all values across the game, from prices of items, ships, and weapons and so on, mission rewards, costs for services, and basically everything. This will be a huge ongoing task that will likely be commonplace for years as new items and systems, both technical systems and planetary systems, get introduced. For the mission design team, they spent time bug fixing for Fight for Pyro, ensuring it was ready for release, and then continued the ongoing mission refactor and shared an update on the status of some old missions on Spectrum, which I will link below. The team also continued to create new and announced content that will improve the quality of all missions, including retroactively improving all existing missions. No idea what this could be, but they have my interest, I am intrigued, and I look forward to hearing more. Now, for the narrative team, they started the year off meeting with multiple disciplines to solidify new ways of delivering in-game narrative content. They also focused on increasing the number of characters that players will meet in the verse, and through these efforts, their hope is that they will expand on storytelling opportunities that players will be able to experience and discover in upcoming patches. Now, personally, I love the narrative of Star Citizen. I have been reading much of the lore and the stories way before we had anything that you could play, so seeing more of that stuff come to fruition in the verse is definitely something that I'm excited for. But all of this sounds very interesting, and is kind of one of the reasons why I feel the new AI-type character will be the generic mission giver, as this sort of stuff will expand greatly on the work that they've all been doing and provide alternate non-MOBIGLASS mission options that can be kind of rinse-repeated for credits. I could be way off, but they have spoken about these kinds of characters in the past, so here is hoping. Now, for the online tech team, the Live Tools team released a new major feature to manage access and permissions in a more granular and versatile way, with them currently gathering feedback from the different users to discuss future improvements. They also continued to add various improvements to the ongoing mission system refactor, including global events and new features, while the social and entity subscription services also received various improvements. And then in the last week of January, both teams met to plan out their 2025-26 roadmaps, which will be shared with us in the upcoming months. Hopefully we will see a roadmap update with their whole new change round of priorities, giving us an idea of kind of what to expect when. Obviously these things chop and change all the time though. Now next we have the R&D team, who started the year off investigating rare PU crashes inside the planet spawning code, with a fix for a bug that was causing a concurrency issue. Work was also started on prototyping a new method for large-scale soft terrain shadow generation, and this will improve quality while reducing the fairly high cost of generating the needed shadow maps. And hopefully if they can continue to optimize like this, having our settings maxed out will be far easier for a much greater range of PCs and clients. Finally, work on rain volumes inspired a prototype for improved ground fog rendering that will be cheaper to evaluate and render, as well as improve the modeling aspects of ground fog and its lighting by self-shadowing and casting shadows like rain volumes and clouds. And I really hope that rain, or weather as itself, can make its way into the game soon. That would transform the planet so much. I mean, even the clouds moving made such a monumental visual difference for me, so having dynamic weather systems rolling in and out will just blow my mind. Now finally, we have the visual effects team, who worked on the Misfortune and elements of another vehicle that will be shared soon, most likely the Hornet Heartseeker, which we're going to hear about this coming week on Inside Star Citizen, or Behind the Ships as it's called. Plus a big push was made on previous location work that hadn't been ready for polish at the time of 4.0's release. So there you go. That was the latest monthly report, covering much of the work done in January. So much more of this report aligns with their new goals of fixing as much as they can, rather than it all just being about new features, which, as much as I really do like to hear about the new features in the works and kind of imagine what it's going to be like when they come along, getting the game now working is definitely a priority that I am behind. But with that said, that is it for now. If you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Come and hang out over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother, or here live on YouTube. I stream to both, and you are all more than welcome to come and hang out. The link is below. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you'd like to be notified when my videos go live. A huge thank you, as always, to my patrons and channel members. Cannot do this without you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.